Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Wayne, and today we're going to talk about our standards. One in particular, Old Home Place. Probably everybody has learned somewhere along the line or heard it in a jam session. It really is one of those tunes that it's a great song. If you haven't ever done it, you should listen to the lyrics. As with anything, to really know the story of the song and kind of research it, find out who wrote the tune and all that kind of thing. But it's been a really big part of my bluegrass journey. It's from the cut that I was first familiar with was the 0044 Rounder album, which is, that says it all. It's an album that people know from its catalog number. It's that big of a deal in bluegrass. But what I see with standards in other music forms like swing or jazz is a more of a big picture growth through those tunes, meaning that chord progressions and melodies from their world of standards tend to become guidelines for other songs that come down the road later on. We don't necessarily always do that with bluegrass, but I'm going to take this standard. This isn't a tutorial about Old Home Place. This is a big picture idea that you should embrace this with and use this same approach with every standard that you learn, that it's about the big picture. This is going to kind of be a two-part session today, talking about the chord progression and the melody. And this particular train of thought would to some extent you could compare it to another video that I have up about the chord scale. And I used the fact that the 6 minor chord, we hear that chord in the chord scale. And I put a couple examples of songs that have 6 minor chords in there. I'm going to do the same today with Old Home Place because something different happens with it. The cut that I'm going to make an example out of is J.D. Crow's version. It's in the key of B flat. And the first chord change that you hear, it goes to a D major. And what's different about that is that if we were playing a B flat chord scale, you'd have a B flat, then a C minor, and then a D minor. But we're not going to D minor in this tune, it's D major. So we need to make a big deal out of the fact that we're hearing that chord fall on our ear in this tune. Don't reduce this to thinking, all right, I've memorized the changes to Old Home Place. Let's make it bigger than that so that from this point moving forward, if you hear that particular change, you will identify that that's going to a 3, but that it's a major chord and not minor. I'm saying all this before I play these examples because this is about your ear. You should be able to hear this chord when this happens. Like if you're just driving down the road with the radio turned on and a song goes to the 3 major, that's something that you should be able to hear and not need a chart or to have to ask anyone what that chord is. We want to develop our ear through this standard. They're bigger than, I think so many times in the bluegrass world, standards are as much about social interaction with other people, which is really a big part of music. And you expect someone in a jam session to know Blue Ridge Cabin Home or Cabin Home on the Hill, 9 Pound Hammer. All of these tunes are going to offer other things that are big picture. But let's check out these 2 examples. And both of these, when you listen to these chord progressions, the first change that happens is from the 1 chord to a 3 major. They're completely different types of music, but check this out.
It's been 10 long years since I left my home in the holler where I was born, where the cool fall nights make the wood smoke rise and the fox hunter blows his horn. Why can you be blue? Oh, let me
right, so if you're familiar with the J.D. Crowe cut, there's some great live footage. That's a treasure that it was captured, because we don't have a lot of video of that band. This could be the only video I'm aware of that group that we all love. And then, of course, a more modern, country song that we're hearing with that same exact chord progression that happens. When we look at that, let's make it about the mandolin, because that's what we do here. If you think about a 1, 4, and 5 progression, and that shape, if I demonstrate that in G, C, and D, if you're not following me with that pattern and the way that looks, there's another video that I have about arpeggios and how they are so closely related to Bill Monroe's chop chord shape under our bluegrass umbrella, with this ring finger over the root note when we play that shape versus any of the other positions. This is something we do a lot in bluegrass, so we're going to build on to that shape, and we have the 1, 4, and the 5 chords kind of in this L-shaped pattern. So what we want to have happen, I'm going to go back to B flat. There's the 1, 4, and the 5. When that first change happens, notice this. The chord that we're playing is 1 half step, or 1 fret, behind the 4 chord. It's a 3 major, not a 3 minor. The naturally occurring chord of the chord scale. We have this note that's not an interval of that root scale. But what this should be is something way bigger than memorizing Old Home Place. It should be, from this point forward, that you can hear that chord change of the 3 major. The other, the Leanne Rhymes cut, it's in A. Look how all of that just moves down. A, D, and E. There's the 1, 4, 5, the same shape. And where am I going to find that chord? In the same relationship to all of those other foundational things that we've put down. So now this standard is serving us in a bigger way. Like the swing world, if you're learning I've got rhythm, if you're playing over those changes, and we begin to, as soon as a circle of fifths progression will begin to happen, it happens in rawhide. Your ear is going to pick that up and you can just track it. You know what's going to happen next. Learn to appreciate that quality in the bluegrass standards also, that they're big picture ideas. So there, let's look at that for the tune in the key of A. Just to break it down one more time, the 1, 4, 5, we're stepping back here. The same thing if we were in G. There it's a B major, not a B minor. So here's a good assignment for you guys. One of the first songs that I ever played that would have had this chord in it would have been Pallet on the Floor. My parents were both really big fans of Doc Watson. We had some of his records, and I remember learning that chord progression and trying to figure out what was happening there. And without even really thinking about it, I just automatically kind of went into this mode of, from that point forward, I had experienced that chord and that sound, and I just kind of picked up on it. Probably you can too. If no one has ever recommended approaching it this way, maybe that's the reason that you have it. Some people intuitively do this. Some people don't. It doesn't mean that you can't. You just kind of sometimes need a push in that direction of thinking a little bit bigger. So now on to the solo with this tune. We're going to, again, this isn't going to be instruction on how to play this solo. It is a classic bluegrass mandolin break, and I think that there should be something that resembles it is supposed to happen. We actually recorded this tune with 3TO on a record that we did with Cracker Barrel a few years back, and I certainly played close or around the big ideas of what Ricky Skaggs did with this break, because it's so classic. So let's check that out now and get a little more into the picking side of this. Now that we've kind of learn something big from the chord progression, let's check out the solo. Okay, so there's that classic break by Ricky Skaggs that we all love. And let's break down that double stop line that happens and try to wrap our head around exactly what's going on there, because we don't want to just copy this break and not realize why it works the way that it does. It's okay to memorize where to put your fingers in when you need to, if you have a time sensitive reason that you need to learn a tune, then it's okay to like maybe just memorize where to put your fingers to learn something if you need to play it at church or at a gig or something within a few days. Short of a reason like that, it should always be about a big picture thing, especially if you're learning a standard. That, I mean, if it's a tune that one of your buddies wrote or something like that, and you might not feel like there's any real fruit in this way that's going to be involved with it, then maybe don't use it this way. But the standards that we play should always be big picture stuff. So let me break down the solo. You could slide into that first double stop. Sometimes it's almost like I ghost the D note, the D string open. There's that sound that we want to hear. Why is that working? Let's watch what happens. If you know your double stop scales like we should, that's the third interval of that double stop scale. And then what's cool about what happens next is that it's the note that doesn't change. Why would he go to that position? That's the third, and it's major. It's not minor. That's up to the minor third shape as far as double stops. This would be the major third. After that shape, that's going to a flat 7 of that chord. We're playing over D. Think about your arpeggios. I have a whole lesson up about 7 chords that you could refer to if this is not really something that you're tracking right along with. Check out the lesson on 7 chords. But that's why that move happens in the front of that solo. After that, it goes from the D to an E flat. The next phrase is played out of that arpeggio shape back to B flat. And then I would think of that F out of this triad here. We've got the third of that chord open, and then the 5 and the root. Now, I like to play the beginning of the break when it starts over, the same phrase is played. Let's go an octave higher, just for the sake of transposing something like this on the mandolin, and to just confirm the way all of this repeats itself. Same exact notes, an octave higher. So now, there's going to be the E flat. Now back to B flat. Again, on that last section of the break, try to play something with the attitude that Ricky Skaggs is playing with, not playing exactly the phrase. This is different every time. If you listen to the 0044 album, the solo is a little different. I've heard quite a few live shows of that band, and it never really tagged exactly the same way for him. Boone Creek also did this tune live. And it's not the same. It isn't something that's really worked up beyond this particular trademark double stop thing that he played. But instead of just like grazing right over that and learning where to put your fingers to play it, let's make it a bigger picture thing and understanding how some of this stuff works on the fretboard of the mandolin. That's what our standards are supposed to do, is to provide foundation for our ears to hear chords and to be able to transpose into different keys or into different octaves. let's let all of those things be part of the study of learning a standard and not just about the song that we have right in front of us. That can lead to a lot of bad habits and low morale. Like you could think, man, I've memorized 50 different songs, but I'm still not really getting anywhere. But it's because that memorization like that doesn't provide big picture stuff so many times. Anyway, I hope this helps. Not about Old Home Place, about your standards, and that you go back, revisit those, and hopefully get more out of them, because there's so much fruit in learning these tunes that we all love and making it about the big picture of learning the mandolin. If anybody wants to go deeper into this, I'm available for Skype. My email is going to be in the description on all the videos that you find here.